occasion, Your Royal Highnesses, visiting Vice Chancellors, our guests, members of the press, Senate members, and university community, Assalamu alaikum. It is a great pleasure for me to be here today. This is the second convocation of our university and the second convocation lecture. And we choose the topic specifically, a real-time topic. A real-time topic, and we went for search. We were searching for who. Then we ended up somewhere. We ended up with one of us that decided to go somewhere. And I'm sure he will do justice to this particular topic. Insecurity and educational instability in Nigeria is a topic of real time. And we look at our environment where we happen to find ourselves, and we said, okay, let's educate ourselves. And I'm sure the presenter will do justice to the topic. Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highnesses, you are highly welcome to Federal University GUSAU, and may our deliberation be a fruitful one and beneficial to our community and society at large. Assalamu alaikum. Officers and all the staff of Federal University GUSAU, despite all odds, they never broke the institution. Despite all odds, they are graduated students, honor of this event. Congratulations, my brother, Professor MALAM. When I received the letter from the VC to be here today, and I saw the name of the Executive Governor of KATSINA State, I did not hesitate, but I canceled some of my activities at the Nigerian Academy of Science and the Nigerian Academy of Engineering so that I can be here. I shifted trip to Kenya so I can be here also. I have been following the governor because, like I said to you, he's an alumnus of ATBU, and I've been a patron of the Alumni Association right from the time he was in Smedan. He did a beautiful job to entrench small and medium enterprises, which, as I'm sure all of you know, is the way to go in order to boost the economy of our country the way India and China did. Then I saw his name on the nomination for governorship, and I said he will succeed, and he succeeded. And as he is piloting the state with this hydra-headed problem of insecurity, I have been following him and his brother, the governor of Zamfara, in the media, especially the BBC House of Service. I don't miss it every morning. And from him, I first learned of kinetic and non-kinetic approaches. And then I noticed he came with 6 strong kinetic approaches and 14 non-kinetic ones, with which security agencies have succeeded in neutralizing major bandits. Congratulations, please continue in that regard. I don't want to proceed, but to say the way you are changing agriculture, which is your main area, education, water supply, and so many areas, is the way I also pick from the media that Governor David Lawan is also taking Zamfara in education, in water supply, and rehabilitation projects around the state. And I thank you all for coming to this and welcome you once again. Thank you.
to stand today before him to present a lecture, but I equally feel very unstable to talk in front of my Vice Chancellor. The Chancellor of the University, the Pro-Chancellor and the Governing Council, my brother, the Vice Chancellor of the University, visiting Vice Chancellors, Secretary to the Government of Zamfara State, the Chief of Staff, members of the State Executive Council, members of the State Assembly, representative of the Executive Director of the TED Fund, and other federal government agencies, visiting Vice Chancellors, their Royal Highnesses present today to grace this occasion, distinguished senior lecturers, distinguished members of the university community, the students of the GUSAU University, whom we are all here for, head of security agencies, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. As rightly said by the Vice Chancellor, I've been consumed by the politics, and I'm more of a politician than an academician. But I will soon come back to classroom. I began my career as a teacher, so I'm naturally inclined to academia and grateful for the opportunity to deliver these lectures on this auspicious occasion. Insecurity is a global issue with conflict between Ukraine and Russia, which has been ongoing since February 2022. Israel-Hamas since October 2023, the Sudan war, and the total collapse of governance in Haiti. Insecurity is present in all countries of varying degrees as presented by the Global Peace Index, where Nigeria ranks 144 of 163 countries. The Prime Minister of Slovenia was recently shot when underscores the macro level of which insecurity prevails. Crime statistics in the most developed countries can be alarming, while the effort to curb insecurity is often met with mixed results across the countries. It is important to understand insecurity from a global perspective, because it brings clarity to local circumstances that we are witnessing today. Recently, myself and 9 other governors from the northern part of this country visited United States Institute for Peace, where we discussed the issue of insecurity in Nigeria at great length. The outcome of that symposium informed some of the interactions between United States government officials and the Nigerian counterpart, where they visited Abuja shortly after. Insecurity in Nigeria has evolved over time. At one point, Nigerians must have felt insecure because of the presence of the British colonists. After independence, military coups become a source of fear for the nation alongside other activities. A civil war was issued in 1967 with the attempt of a separatist movement from Biafra in the southeast part of this country. There were times highway robberies were the greatest cause of concern of Nigerians, because that was when they felt most insecure especially when traveling at night. They remain concerned, but now they worry about being kidnapped for ransom. Lagos dealt with waves of home robberies for decades, which gradually reached Abuja. The digitalization of our banking system meant less cash were carried or kept at home, leading to a decline in home robberies. However, kidnapping had been on the rise as they are more lucrative for criminals. Theft and other types of criminalities still exist. These are largely prevalent in all the societies. Conflict between farmers and herders, between Muslims and Christians, all lead to insecurity in different states across the country over the decades. These conflicts remain a major source of concern for government in its effort to bring peace and security to the people. A key turning point for security of Nigeria was the emergence of Boko Haram. The point of discussion today, which is the link between security and education, can be encapsulated with the activities of the violent terrorist group which started in Maiduguri, Borno State. The assault of the group of modern-day academic theories, mixed gender schools lead to a massive radicalization of young men across the state. When the event of 2009 concluded with the death of their leader, the security landscape in Nigeria changed forever. The fight against Boko Haram will see the military occupying vast part of the Northeast in an effort to fight an ideological insurgency which displaced entire local governments and their inhabitants. One of the major consequences of such displacement was the closure of schools in those locations and poor plan to ensure that displaced children have access to education. The abduction of the Chibok girls brought a large-scale direct attack on education by the insurgents and saw the rise of school and students becoming target in what was an already deadly and destabilizing situation for the educational sector. With relative calm in the Northeast, the Northwest starts to experience different types of insecurity. Analysts have linked insecurity in the Northwest to the migration of criminal elements from the Northeast. Insecurity evolved from being an ideological endeavor to a pure criminal enterprise driven by greed and grievances. Kidnappings and cattle rustling by armed bandits is now a multi-billion naira industry as communities split their allegiance between bandits and government. Unfortunately, schools and students have continued to be victims of insecurity in this development. Students in Katsina State, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kaduna, and Kebbi State have all been abducted, and some are yet to return to their loved ones. In a recently concluded baseline study of the educational sector in Katsina State has shown that number of schools are completely abandoned due to insecurity. In some instances, the bandit has taken over the buildings. Parents are increasingly afraid of sending their children to schools, and where they have the courage, the school might be completely destroyed. Distinguished guests, we are at the nexus between insecurity and education, and there is hope for a better future. This lecture is contextual insecurity and instability in the educational sector as we seek a way forward for the sake of future generations. Education is a key to fight insecurity, and success in these areas can change the tide in a very difficult war with banditry and other forms of criminalities. Contextual definition, insecurity. We must first conceptualize security in order to have a better understanding of the idea of insecurity. Security, as defined by Omede 2012, is a dynamic situation that encompasses the ability of the state or nation to fend off any threats to its core interests and values. According to Eweten and Ohe 2014, security also refers to the lack of dangers to a country's political and socio-economic goals, as well as peace, stability, cohesiveness, integration. For ELO 2019, security as defined by Achumba and ACFO 2013 includes protection of crime, feeling safe, predictably of a daily life, knowing what to expect, and freedom from psychological harm, safety or protection from emotional stress, which result from the assurance or knowledge that is wanted, accepted, loved, and protected in one's community and neighborhood by people around. Conversely, insecurity refers to a feeling of worry and anxiety brought on by a real or perceived lack of safety. Bilan 25 recently differentiated. It alludes to insufficient and non-existent safety against harm. The concept is constrained since it concentrates solely on bodily insecurity as a type of insecurity and does not include other types of insecurity, such as social and economic instability. Despite this drawback, it is important to emphasize that physical insecurity, which endangers both peoples and property, poses a greater threat, endangers both people and property, poses greater threat to educational sector than any other of its kind, as any suffering from the insecurity may become depressed, fearful, uneasy, oppressed, lost focus, and lost their humanity. Ozigbo 2019. Instability in education. Literally, education is a process of imparting knowledge and skills to people in order to shape their behavior and make them productive members of society. On the other hand, instability denotes being erratic and unpredictable. On the other hand, instability denotes being erratic and unpredictable. Primary and secondary schools, universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, other educational establishments are hubs for the development of knowledge and skills. These educational establishments are supposed to provide their students with information and ability they needed to succeed or excel in their chosen fields in a calm and hassle-free setting. An environment of instability makes it impossible for educational institutions to be progressive, predictable, sustainable, and stable. An unstable educational system is reflected in a number of disruptions, such as extended breaks, abrupt or intermittent cessation of academic activities, delay in resuming classes, and temporary or permanent closure of schools. We define educational instability as alterations to educational policies, either across the board or within a specific subsystem, in an environment where the safety of the people and their property is ensured. Teaching and learning is improved. It is believed that learning in society is improved in a well-secured environment, free from security concerns. Akintunde and Musa 2016. Forms of insecurity in Nigeria. Insecurity in Nigeria takes many different forms, among which following stand out. Terrorism. Terrorism is one of the security challenges Nigeria has today. The terrorist organization Boko Haram has been terrorizing Nigeria in the northeast and beyond since 2009. This group believes that some forms of Western education are against the teaching of Islam. May help to explain why. In an effort to dissuade Western education, it has been targeting and kidnapping school children. Armed banditry. According to USIP 2022, armed banditry originated as a resource-based conflict between sedentary crop producers and nomadic cattle herders. Nowadays, it has developed into a criminal operation that engage in armed robberies, abduction, market raids, village raids, and livestock rustling, among other crimes. The nation's socio-economic progress continues to be gravely endangered by the action of armed bandits. This form of insecurity, which also targets school children, is the greatest challenge facing the northwest region of this country. Another form of insecurity challenge that has continued to threaten both educational stability and national security in Nigeria is perennial conflict between farmers and herders, especially in the north-central part of this country. States like Benue, Plateau, Nasarawa have been reduced to threats of violent confrontation between two groups. Militancy. Udo 2015, who drew inspiration from the country penal code, conceptualized militancy, among others, as violence and use of unlawful force, the unlawful use of the unjustified force, or the intermittent effect that result from the threat of using such force. The criminal operation in the Independent Republic of Biafra, IPOB, and the Niger Delta militant has put human lives and properties in danger in the southeast and south-south region, respectively, in recent years. Causes of insecurity in Nigeria. Nigerian insecurity is attributable to the variety of reasons, some of which are interrogated here under. Poverty and unemployment. Security in Nigeria is mostly caused by poverty and unemployment. Imagine a person giving only 500 naira for the bandit to come and kill over 30 to 50 people in his village. That is the work of poverty. Every year, millions of young Nigerians graduate from high educational institutions across the nation with no chance of obtaining increasingly difficult to obtain white-collar employment. Many Nigerian graduates start hitting the street of the country's larger cities in quest for jobs that aren't easily available after completing the mandatory one-year national youth program. When they cannot find work, some of those youth people begin frustrated and started looking for other ways to make ends meet. Some of them turn to illegal crimes like armed robbery, kidnapping for ransom, and computer fraud, among others. Poverty and the ensuing lack of food and basic amenities, as noted correctly by Ekbefo and Salihu 2014, lead to the improvised to engage in violence and antisocial behavior, endangering the society of the Nigerian state. Number 2, weak and people security architecture. This is another factor contributing to the nation's insecurity. It is sad to note that the security personnel who confront terrorists and other criminal elements are poorly motivated, lack adequate training and retraining, with no access to advanced weaponry that will allow them to take criminal organizations such as Armed Bandit and Boko Haram, among others. It is undeniable that non-state actors with a motley crowd like members of the Boko Haram possess more advanced weaponry than Nigerian security personnel. The absence of coordination among security agencies fighting insecurity is also seen as a weak point in the national security architecture. The fact that an enormous sum of money made available for the purchase of weapons have been embezzled and mismanaged, with the offenders not receiving enough punishment, is also concerning. Ozigbo 2019. Nigerian porous border is another reason for insecurity in this country. The porosity of the nation's border is also said to be a contributor to the ongoing insecurity in the country. People enter and exit Nigeria at will without detection due to the country's extremely porous land borders. Additionally, some people enter the nation under the cover of Economic Community of West African States (ECOWAS) protocol, well disguising as cattle hiders. Once inside, they bring extremely dangerous small arms and light weapons, which they later use to plan attacks on Nigeria within their own nation. Hazin and Hona 2027, Adiola and Oloyemi 2012. Subsistence abuse, abuse of drugs and other substances also fuel insecurity in our country. Drug misuse is a major problem in Nigeria, where a large number of youth abuse alcohol, marijuana, and other hard drugs. When these narcotics are abused, young people become more susceptible to crime and easily recruited by the criminal gangs. Ignorance and illiteracy. These two factors also contribute to Nigerian insecurity. Haido and AK 2015 assert that major contributing factors to the violent conflict in northern Nigeria is a pervasive illiteracy brought on by subpar education. These poor people with no education are prone to manipulation by conflict entrepreneurs and desperate politicians, who may use them for criminal political intimidation and other forms of insecurity. The ignorant and illiterate constitute criminality in all parts of the country, regardless of ethnicity. Marginalization. In Nigeria, as in most other African nations, there is an increasing disparity between the rich and the poor, the have and the have-not, in terms of wealth and marginalization. The current economic hardship in Nigeria makes it difficult for many Nigerians to get by. An individual has a limit to how much suffering or adversity they can withstand before turning to criminality as a response. Political marginalization has been the cause of instability brought on by unrest among young people, agitations and kidnappings in the south and southeast part of the country, ethnic and religious intolerance. This is another factor that contributes to Nigerians' insecurity. The nation is diverse in terms of language, ethnicity, and religion, and it is home of approximately 350 distinct ethnic groups, as well as two major religions, Islam and Christianity. Instances of ethno-religious conflict have occurred in states such as Delta, Plateau, Benue, Kaduna, Kano, etc. Poor leadership or governance is a very, very important point in our Nigerian of today. The problem of poor leadership and governance is also regarded as contributing to Nigerian instability. In this book, The Trouble with Nigeria by Chinua Achebe, argued that the primary challenge facing Nigeria is lack of effective leadership rather than anything intrinsic to the country's geography, environment, or even political structure. There are strong individual and powerful institutions in developed nations like China, United States, France, Germany, British, among others. In Nigeria, on the other hand, we have strong individuals and poor institutions. Additionally, Nigerian government has failed to provide favorable business climate, employment opportunity, infrastructure needed to attract foreign investment, therefore undermine the nation's socio-economic development. The government's inability to provide social amenities for the populace is due to corruption. And we can remember former President Buhari has been mentioning it that if you don't kill corruption, corruption will kill you. Nigeria has an abundance of material and human resources, but the vast majority of its citizens live in poverty. Funds designated for project implementation are typically embezzled into a personal pocket of influential people for personal gains. The lack of effective leadership and high standard of living for the populace demoralize and prostrate majority of the population, which ultimately leads to violent crisis and instability and mistrust among the followers. Does Nigerian educational stability correlate with insecurity? Yes. One of the biggest obstacles to Nigerian socio-economic progress is insecurity. The stability of the educational sector is contingent upon the absence of property and human security. In actuality, Nigeria's educational institutions have been most negatively impacted by the insecurity recently. The majority of schools lack a secure and well-fenced area. There are not enough properly armed and qualified security guards to keep an eye on these kids and their teachers. According to Amekeri 2023, insecurity has the following repercussions on the educational system. Manpower shortage. An institution quality is largely based on the caliber of its faculty. Because of Nigerian security challenge, many professional teachers have lost their lives, which has had a negative impact on educational institution administration. Jacob 2021 said that since insurgency began in 2009, Boko Haram has killed over 2,300 teachers in the northeast part of this country. Citing data from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, this implies that the quality of education is badly impacted. As a result, the industry will have to deal with the issues of insufficient qualified professionals. B. Low quality of education. In many parts of Nigeria, school closure insecurity. A school is promptly and permanently closed whenever it is attacked or threatened. Teachers find it challenging to cover their curricula as a result of the school sporadic closure, which has an impact on the standard of instruction and the graduates these institutions produce. Due to insecurity, schools are typically closed in a number of places, including Zamfara, Borno, Kano, Katsina, Kaduna. When the schools do open, do reopen, the pupils are required to retake exams. Graduates created by insecurity ultimately lack the necessary knowledge and skills to function in the job, as Paul 2015 correctly pointed out. Closure of educational institutions. In order to prevent additional attack, the government of several states, particularly those facing security challenges, have resorted to closing educational institutions. School closures not only negatively impact the quality of education, but also impede the free flow of academic activities in our institutions. Internal learner displacement. Students are internally displaced as a result of Nigerians' insecurity, particularly in the northern region. Due to insecurity, a large number of kids have been internally relocated from their schools in order to survive. And some of the displaced students and their parents have turned to living in camps for internally displaced people, which lack sufficient social facilities and security personnel in the camp. Impact of insecurity on stability of education. Social impact. According to sociologists, education is a social process that unites social, self, and organized individuals served through acquisition and internalization of moral principles. Social competencies, physical abilities, and social and spatial mental qualities that are determined and required by society through interactions with other individual elements of life and society. This process is largely for educators to be functional and actively participate in society, and fundamentally for the realization of a cohesive, stable, fundamentally for the realization of socialization is, however, is how many sociologists describe it. To put it simple, the level of interaction that characterizes a community determines the level of education inside it. The ability to learn, develop, or transfer new knowledge is correspondingly reduced in an environment where people feel unsafe because the traumatic anxieties that permeate the atmosphere undermine relationship between students and teachers. Impact of the environment. Education can only take place in situations that are comparable to, yet distinct from those that promote learning, with a variety of qualities including people, culture, space, and infrastructure. A healthy atmosphere is preferable for sustainable education. Nothing works well in an insecure environment, especially where it comes to learning. An insecure learning environment can excavate other issues like the destruction of existing facilities, scare off qualified teachers and trainers, learners, result in a shortage of creative materials, in addition to endangering the effective learning through a behavioral and interaction of both teachers and students. Psychological impact. According to Zara 2019, a student's psychological stability has a significant impact on their academic performance. 3 categories have been proposed by psychologists to prevent the elements that influence learning: learners' resident factors, teachers' resident factors, environmental resident factors. Nonetheless, tension and insecurity frequently resulted in emotional, psychological, and mental imbalances. Abraham Maslow's hypothesis states that psychological needs, such as the need for serenity and a safe, secure existence, are the second most fundamental category of needs, after the person's needs for survival have been met. For instance, When anxiety, dread of approaching disaster, or a threat to one's life predominates, one is not going to consider how effectively influence, learn, or accomplish anything. This suggests that learning occurs more successfully when both teachers and students are in a pleasant emotional state that can pique student curiosity and focus the attention required for learning or teaching. Financial impact. Majority of the time, major and ongoing violence and insecurity have an impact on people's livelihood. This is shown in nations like Nigeria, Kenya, and others, where social vices like banditry, kidnapping, livestock rustling, and conflict between farmers and herders have severely damaged areas, exploited financial resources, restricted economic activities. Many have been driven to relocate out of places where they can make ends meet and into places where they feel safe, forced due to political violence and tension generated by politics, including Afghanistan, Pakistan, Myanmar. Because of this, the majority of people's financial stability has been undermined in provision those who ought to put up deal for education and making it look luxury that is out of reach for some. Conclusion and recommendation. Distinguished gentlemen, the case has been made for the link between insecurity and instability in the security education sector in Nigeria. The objective, distinguished guests, is to find a sustainable solution to this problem. I propose that we begin by tackling the problem on ungoverned spaces in the country. We have so many ungoverned spaces in the country which becomes a hideout for criminals. There are vast terrorists all across the country where the impact of government and governance is not felt. These people live on a subsistence basis and are completely disconnected with socio-economic development. These spaces breed criminality and provide safe haven for criminals in Nigeria. It may explain how terrorists and bandits can kidnap hundreds of students at a time and conveniently keep them despite the tools and technology available to security agencies. Reducing ungoverned spaces would be key to intelligence gathering, rapid response effort, and community inclusion in the fight against insecurity. This community inclusion is what informed our decision to form our security outfit in our various states. In Katsina, we have Katsina Community Watch. In Zamfara, we have Community Protection Guards. In many areas, there is government presence, especially during election campaigns. But they are seriously under-policed, hence have little to no security. The national problem of inadequate security personnel across all agencies and poor funding for them has led to the discussion around the state police at the National Executive Council. Many states, including Katsina, have established some form of local structures to fight insecurity. This has yielded positive results, but it's very capital intensive and drains the resources from the socio-economic development of our various states. Improving the capacity of the local security structure can greatly improve security in schools and prevent attack on educational system. The local security must have full vertical integration with federal security agencies horizontal integration with other states to achieve its full potential. Here, vertical integration with the federal agencies, then the horizontal with various states that borders our state, like relationship or partnership with states like Zamfara, Kaduna State, and other states that borders us, so that we can have maximum security control within our borders in between states. Katsina State government has explored easy warning system to keep schools and community prevent criminal attacks. Securing lives and livelihood is a long-term sustainable solution to our problems. Socio-economic development leads to greater participation in education sector, while also improving the quality of education provided. We must invest in our people and the communities in a manner that aligns with their developmental needs and priorities. This also means investing in education and skills acquisition on a strategic basis. Marginalized and unserved communities must be identified and accorded the economic justice they deserve. This will prevent the recruitment of young men and women to support bandits and all types of criminals. The challenges are enormous, gentlemen, and will take time to fix it. But government must be the enabler of sustainable change toward improving security and reducing instability caused in the educational sector. No nation has prospered without an educated population. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
My PhD TV, my PhD TV, my PhD TV. Faɗa kallo nishaɗi, sai my PhD TV.
Gagara gasa online TV, my PhD TV, gidan TV mai faɗakarwa tare da nishaɗantarwa.